right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. Bob Pompeani here as we get you set for another night of phone calls and opinions. And this is a big day because the Steelers looked to go to Buffalo and try to win a game. As it turned out, they lost a game by digging an early deficit, which has been the way it's been for the last 7 years, as their playoff losing streak goes back now 5 straight games. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. Andrew Filipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. PM team was busy today getting set for this game. There was optimism coming into it because the Steelers had won 3 in a row. Mason Rudolph had posted 3 straight really good passer rating games. But then again, the big bugaboo, falling behind again. And the way they did it, first drive, the defense let them down. And I thought the defense, once again, was late starting in this game. And when you dig a deficit against a team like Josh Allen, you're asking for trouble, Andrew. And that's pretty much what happened. They lost the game in the first half.
Bob, it's a lot easier these nights when you go into games like this with no expectations and no reason to think the Steelers are going to win the game. And that's where I was at home watching this game because of what they were up against. They did not have T.J. Watt. Their record without Watt was awful. It was 1-10. Now it's 1-11. They were 1-6 without him last year. They went to Buffalo without Watt last season. They lost 38-3. So I guess this would be an improvement off of that, Bob. They were more competitive in this game. You're right. Every game they do now in the playoffs has the same script where they dig themselves a huge hole, and then they have to fight like hell to dig themselves out of it, and they make it close for a little while and maybe suck you in and think, oh, my God, they actually might win this game. No, not the case. Something happens in the fourth quarter, whether it's a bad call, referees make a mistake. I don't know what Gene Steratore was talking about, Bob. No pass interference on that George Pickens call? Are you kidding me? The guy got mugged out there. And Pickens had good reason to throw his helmet at the end of that play because that was egregious. But ultimately, the Steelers beat themselves more than anything else in this game. And the odds makers saw it coming. That's why Buffalo was a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, and, there was a time they got back into within 7. I thought a very critical part of that game. When they make it a 7-point game on the touchdown pass from Rudolph to Calvin Austin. And then in that drive, you had 2 Miles Jack penalties. And I had a problem with both of them, actually, Andrew. And again, I don't want to harp on the refs here, but I thought the pass interference call, turned into a holding call. They didn't call it when it originally was going to be a spot foul. But even that, the ball was completely overthrown. Houston goes to Baltimore. Those are 2 very good games. C.J. Stroud looks outstanding to me. Jordan Love is a man on the rise. There's some really good matchups coming up. Unfortunately, the Steelers won't be part of it.
No, and that's one of the failures of this season is that you just mentioned 2 young quarterbacks who developed and had huge years. That didn't happen for Kenny Pickett. And I thought Mason Rudolph, Bob, got off to a slow start, got better as the game went on. I thought was pretty solid in the second half of the game, made some critical plays. But there's no comparing him to Josh Allen. And so that's the issue right now is that everything else can be right for the Steelers. But if you have pedestrian quarterback play, it's going to be hard to win. We experienced that in the 90s with Bill Cowher teams. And it feels right now, Bob, like we're back there. And other teams in the AFC, like Houston, they have a young quarterback. How about Cincinnati? You'll get Joe Burrow back next year. So, the Steelers, in a way, because of that Burrow injury, kind of blew a golden opportunity this season to win while a key quarterback in your own division was out.
And Houston absolutely fleeced Cleveland. They got a ransom of draft picks, and now they have a rookie quarterback who won't make a lot of money, and they could surround him with a lot, and they're already a very good team, and I wonder what it's going to be like in the next couple of years. We'll talk about Mike Tomlin walking off the final question, which was about his future. We'll talk about everything regarding the Steelers and their offseason, what happened this season. We want to hear from you at 412-575-2600. Call us. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA+. All right, our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from Ari Miroff of Sports Update, and he says 23 other NFL teams have won a playoff game more recently than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that would include the Houston Texans, who have gone from basement living to all of a sudden high rent into the Final Four of the AFC. And that leads us to Mike Tomlin walking off the final question, which was offered up by Brooke Pryor, just wanting to know, you have a year left on his contract, what are your intentions? And he just didn't answer it. And Pony, this is interesting to me because I've worked a lot with Mike, and he's as glib as they come. He's as smart as they come. He normally can answer anything at any time. And that to me looked like he knew it was going to come, and that was going to be his response. Do you read anything more into it?
Yeah, because, well, here's the thing about the way he acted, Bob. Now this is going to blow up, and this is going to be a huge national story, and it's going to be part of the news cycle tomorrow morning on all the sports shows. That viral clip of him just storming out, and people will laugh at it, and other people will have a serious conversation and try to infer meaning. What does it mean? Why did he do it that way? Because he could have easily just said, guys, I don't want to talk about this right now.
Yeah.
We just lost a playoff game. And he chose instead to be more disrespectful about the question itself and say, I'm not even going to grant you an answer. I'm not even going to justify that question or dignify it at all. So there's got to be a rationale to that, because I don't think that Tomlin did that extemporaneously, Bob. I think he knew that he was probably going to get a question like that if they lost, and he was going to react to it like that.
Yeah, and maybe it's a leverage move. I don't know what it is, but I was surprised he did it because he normally, as I said, can answer just about everything. We had a lot of phone callers, Andrew. We did not have opportunities after the game, so want to try to get as many in as we can, beginning with Kirk in Manor. Kirk, welcome. Go right ahead, sir.
How you doing, Bob? How you doing, Pony? Hey, real quick, I just wanted to ask you, I realize Coach Tomlin has not had a losing season, but I just got disgusted this year. He turned a potential 13-4, possibly 12-5 team into a 10-8 team now. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it was set up at 6-3. They look good. They had 2 home games coming up against bottom feeders. Andrew, they let those slide, then the following one to Indianapolis, and that doomed them for any chance of doing anything beyond being a 7th seed at the very best situation. Now, you sure they did it? Mason Rudolph came in, gave them a spark. They got it, but then they put themselves in this situation going to Buffalo. So, no, it was not a good season. And to me, again, 7 years without a playoff win for an organization that prides itself on winning Super Bowls, it's really unacceptable.
But even stretch it beyond that, Bob. I mean, they did not develop a quarterback this year, and they didn't find a direction on offense. They had to fire their offensive coordinator midseason, and we don't know what Kenny Pickett is yet. I mean, we've now had 24 games of evidence that he's someone that has come into games and has won games late. He's had big fourth quarters, but he hasn't put together impressive games. And as much as I want to blame that on Matt Canada, Rudolph went in late in the year and gave you more complete games against Cincinnati and Seattle, those two especially. And I didn't think he really even played. I didn't think he laid an egg in this game. The interception was bad. He threw it behind Johnson in the red zone. He's got to make a better play there. But as the game went on, I thought he got better. He was obviously not on Josh Allen's level, Bob.
No.
But I didn't think they lost this game tonight because their quarterback played like garbage.
No, I agree.
There were other
I think
reasons.
The touchdown to Deontay Johnson, and then the way he set up the throw to Calvin Austin by looking left, making a guy move and just putting it in there was really well done. And I thought you saw a lot of moxie in Mason Rudolph, which leads to an interesting situation coming up in this offseason. Man, there are going to be a lot of unrestricted free agents, but he's at the top of the list. And I'm not so sure how this plays out, Andrew. I mean, I got to believe that he wants to stay here, but only if he gets a legitimate shot of winning a starting job, and it has to be a legitimate shot. Otherwise, he'd have to look around. I don't know how many other starting jobs are available. He'll get better backup money, maybe someplace else. What's your take on where he may end up, and what would his offseason strategy be?
Well, I think there's only going to be a handful of teams that have a situation that would appeal to Mason Rudolph, meaning, hey, we'll pay you good money to be a backup. We'll give you kind of backup fringe, not starter money. We'll give you high-end backup money. And we either have a young starting quarterback here already who's unproven, or we're going to draft a guy and we'll have to make up our minds, do we want to start that guy week 1 or start you, the veteran quarterback? Kind of like the Mitch Trubisky situation before they drafted Kenny Pickett. I think that's where Mason Rudolph is now at in his career. He goes from third quarterback to being in one of those scenarios, like Taylor Heineke in Atlanta or Jacoby Brissett this year in Washington. I think he's elevated himself to that point, Bob, and he might look around and think of those possible situations, 4 or 5, the best one is here in Pittsburgh with not a system because it's going to change, new coaching, but with a head coach possibly and an incumbent quarterback, Kenny Pickett, that he already knows.
Yeah, I think there are going to be changes. I think they need a new punter, and I really like Presley Harvin as a person, but they need to do that. Mason Cole at center, I think they can do better there. certainly, and I think Mitch Trubisky is gone. He'll have to look for another job, and they'll figure out how to, get the dead cap money there, but move on in the quarterback department. Back to the lines we go. Rich in Murraysville. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
So I just have a couple comments. I don't believe that the Steelers will ever be relevant as long as Mike Tomlin's the head coach. I think he was a passenger in 07 to 12 with Dick LeBeau and Bruce Arians doing the heavy lifting. Pony said that the Steelers were pedestrian at quarterback in the 90s, but remember, Bill Cowher went to 4 AFC championship games with pedestrian quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Cordell Stewart was one of them who lifted him, and he got some good production out of him.
And the reason why they didn't win a Super Bowl is because they didn't have a John Elway, they didn't have a Brett Favre, they didn't have the guys during that era who were winning Super Bowls. I'm not saying that they didn't achieve good things, because they did, but it's just much harder, Bob, as we've seen. That's why I talked about that. It's a lot harder to compete for championships when you're using Neil O'Donnell's and Mike Tomczak's and Cordell Stewart's as opposed to borderline Hall of Fame, All-Pro, Pro Bowl caliber guys.
Yeah, there's no question. You got to have an upgrade there, because all these teams have elite quarterbacks. You can make a list of about 15 of them, that are really good and have a chance to take. And this would even not include right now Trevor Lawrence, who's not been very good, or he's taken a step back in my opinion. But still, he has the pedigree to do it. So they got a lot of work to do there. Let's go out to Richard in Indiana. What's up, Richard? How are you doing?
Hi. I was wondering, how old is Mason Rudolph?
28.
28.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got another 2-3 years?
Well, he has no time on a contract. If you're asking how good he could be or how many years in the NFL, he can play 7 to 10, if he realizes whatever potential's there. But you got guys who are younger than that, like Justin Fields is 24. I still wonder about his future and where it may end up. Pony, only because he's been around now and he's just 24. But I thought he has shown signs that he could be a much better quarterback than a lot of quarterbacks around this league.
Well, we know that Mike Tomlin really liked him out of Ohio State. The acquisition cost, I don't think, is going to be exorbitant. I don't think it's going to take as much as people think, because there's only one more year on the contract, and then you got to make a decision on fifth-year option or extensions. And because of that, I don't think that Chicago can demand anywhere near a first-round pick for the guy. You've got to tailor your offense to Justin Fields. Clearly in Chicago, what they did, Bob, with him didn't work.
Right.
Because that offensive coordinator got fired, and they didn't win a lot of games with him as their quarterback. But there's definitely more talent there than he has shown so far in his NFL career. And I am interested in Justin Fields, but Bob, that sounds like a hard sell. You know Art Rooney. Do you think he's going to bring in another first-round quarterback and have that guy unseat Kenny Pickett only 2 years into his career?
No, I don't think so. And I want to see Kenny Pickett with a different systematic change to their offensive strategy. I want to see what he can do in that. And I still think there's a lot to extract from him. I'm not giving up on him, and I don't think they will either. So, you still need quarterback depth. You need more in the room. Who's it going to be? If it's not, I don't see them being involved in that. No, I agree with you. But I also think they're going to need to find other people here. They got a lot of work to do in this offseason, not only there, but on inside linebacker. Every year they keep chasing people. They got injuries. But Quan Alexander's a free agent. And then they have some guys who are getting older too, and then they're going to be replaced at some point. So it's always interesting in the NFL offseason, which is why we talk about it as much as we do. We got to take a break here. We'll come back with Steve, hopefully Nancy, Bob, and George on the line. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on the night the Steelers season ends 31-17 in Buffalo. We'll be right back. All right, a lot of people around town were watching the game and certainly are not having a good night. Ken Rice is in the newsroom and has a list of what's coming up tonight at 11.
Yeah, Bob, we're catching up with Steeler Nation after tonight's loss in Buffalo. Also, Ray Petland tracking more frigid temperatures, relief not really anywhere close in sight. And what happened in the Iowa caucuses tonight? All coming up at 11, Bob. I'll see you then.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Let's go to George in Claysville. George, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, bye, Bob. How you doing tonight?
All right. What's up, George?
Well, Percy Harvins needs to go. He should have been going at halfway through the season. And then the defensive backs coach is terrible, because how many defensive backs have they coached in the last 5 years, and how many have they developed?
Well, they've let guys go who made plays this weekend, and guys like Steven Nelson, Mike Hilton's had a pretty good career since he left, and also Cam Sutton's made plays for Detroit. But yeah, I think there has to be upgrades. And honestly, Pat Peterson looks slow to me today, Andrew. You know, I don't know. Is he coming back for another year? Do you think they'll want him back for another year?
You know, I wouldn't. I think the safety thing even last week against Baltimore likely bounced off that tackle. It seemed like a kind of a business decision by Peterson, and he scored a touchdown in that bad weather. No, I think they need an upgrade there, Bob. They need to find another corner. Joey Porter Jr. came on so strong, and then that play, he got injured on another one that should have been flagged.
Yeah.
And that was a critical play. He got drilled from behind, a
Right.
concussion. If they flag that, Buffalo doesn't get a first down. They don't extend that scoring drive.
Yeah.
It's a big miss in that game.
I just, and I'm not going to bring up conspiracy theories, but I think the NFL likes the fact that it's going to be Kansas City and Buffalo, and I'm not saying that happened on the field, but man, there were some calls in that game that I didn't understand, and that was one of them. He got drilled from behind. There was no need for that play, and they stood there, watched it, and nothing happened, which was stunning to me. All right, real quick, what's going to be your best game to watch next weekend? I personally will like Packers 49ers. What about you?
Bob, look out for Baker's Bucks. I think they're going to beat Detroit and go to the NFC Championship
We'll make
game.
a bet right here on that one. No. Whatever you want.
I can't hear you. Producers are in my ear.
We're out of time. Good night, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow right here at 10:35. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you at 11.